Andy?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. And as soon as I fix it, it works. Okay.
That's usually how it goes. Once you fix it, it works.
It's always such a relief when I can say it wasn't my fault.
Which Angie Jennings am I tagging?
Let me see.
The badass one.
Shit. I don't want to tell you the photography one I would do. This one here. Or, the top. Just do the top one. All right, we got your Facebook page tagged in the front one, so you should see it as soon as it goes live.
Okay, there it is.
This is a different fucking Ambitions of a Writer, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kyle.
Knockouts and 3 counts.
Yes, sir. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts, and we are here with a brand new episode of Podcast Gold. Mr. Collison, let's go ahead and skip all the BS and let's do our intros and then get this interview started, sir. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, seeing as I'm the only Kyle in the studio today, I'm also the white Kyle in the studio today. So, yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Detroit Knockout, at Detroit NOKOUT, and follow the show's page, Knockouts and 3 Counts Podcast on Facebook.
Alrighty, and I am Devin McKenzie. You can find me on Twitter at Devin63. That's DEVINTHE63. You can find me on Instagram at All Steak No Sizzle. And thank you for following me. I just reached 1,000 followers on Instagram, man.
Oh, shit. Holy shit, circle it in red.
Make sure you check out the Reality Era News group on Facebook. We talk wrestling in there. Make sure you check out ko3cpod.com where you can find everybody's social media. Hey, if you're looking for a car, check out southfieldqualitycars.com. Once you check out the inventory, you say, hey, you know what? I like that Audi A6 right there. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to talk to a sales rep and I'm going to say, hey, I got a reference code. And that reference code is 19309 and I'm going to receive $500 off of my purchase. Bam. Do it. All right. Why don't you introduce our guest, Kyle?
So, as many of you guys have been listening to our show, you know, we bring you a wide array of guests, you know, of the MMA and wrestling world, most of which being of the male variety. But tonight we have our second female fighter on the show. We have Angie Jennings, who's getting ready to fight for XFN in Florida, December 15th. Angie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Thank you for joining us, Angie.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Andrew, for the people that want to follow you on social media, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can follow you? And if you have any sponsors, go ahead and throw those out there, too.
Okay, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at angela.jennings.mma. And I'd like to thank Cage Side Management, my management company, and my sponsor, Steely Teas, in both areas of Michigan.
All righty. And your fight, when is your fight again? And
December 15th.
December 15th. And if anybody wants to check that out, do they have television for that?
I think it's on Flow Combat, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be a live stream on Flow Combat, and it's taking place in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Sweet. So, we'll start off with the most basic question. How's camp going? Or have you started camp yet?
I'm slowly getting into the gear of hitting camp hard. I tend to, overtrain and peak early, so I don't like to start really hard right away. I like to, probably do about a month and a half hard camp. So I'm getting back into my scheduling and getting my gears going. I'm actually starting my camp here in Michigan, and then I will be going to Florida to be finishing my camp with my guys down there because I used to live down there for a couple of years. So I'll be training about a month and a half and having them corner me down there out of Boca, Florida.
So, with you living in Florida for a while, and now you said you're living back here, what brought you back to Michigan?
I initially moved to Florida because, I just wanted to broaden my horizons, and I was, a big fish in a small pond, and then I just had the calling to come home. I wanted to be back with my family. I had done what I needed to do in Florida, and I came back, and now that I have a fight down there, I just figured I would do part of my camp down there with my guys down there. It's convenient down there. You know, they've always had my back. I figured they could corner me, and I wouldn't mind trying to camp back with them again.
So let's talk about that. When I got to meet you at WXC a little while back, you were telling us how hard of a time you were having finding a fight. Tell us a little bit about that. You know, how long's it been since you've been out of the cage? Because your last fight was for KOP, correct?
Yeah, and that was actually like December 17th or something. So it'll be about a year since I stepped back to the cage once this fight happened.
So what's been the deal with you guys not being able to find fights? Is it people are turning down fights? Is it, you know, just bad matchmaking? Like, what's been the story, and why has it been so hard for you to get a fight?
You know, it's an array of things. I mean, you know how matchmaking can be and how, you know, the fight game can be. Everybody wants to pad their records, you know. And me being a newer pro, trying to find girls in the realm of my type of record, you know, I'm only 1-0. So there's other girls that are 1-0, 0-1. It's a risky move taking a tough fight, which you know, for me, I would say that I wouldn't be an easy fight. So it is quite the risk. On top of the fact that I was fighting at 115, I'm assuming I am a big 115er. On top of the fact I have girls, you know, shielding behind the fact, oh, well, you can't make weight, you know, you're too big, so I'm not going to waste my time with you. Then, you know, I think, I don't know if promoters are having a hard time or if I'm not a priority. As far as, you know, at least the Michigan promoters, I've had them all supposedly trying to get me fights, but I have no results. So I really don't know what it is, and I never probably really know what it is. So I had the opportunity to fight for XFN. Danielle K called me, and he wanted to book me. So, because I just fought for Danielle K for XFN in the past. It was my last amateur fight prior to going pro. So I took one amateur fight for them, and that was actually against the same girl I'm fighting now. So
you guys
I
have
really
some
don't know what
history.
it is.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're being humble. I'll say what it is. People are afraid of you. Let's just go ahead and call it what it really is. People are afraid to fight you.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I understand I'm a high energy fighter. I'm unpredictable. I mean, if anybody looks at my amateur record, I am 5-5. So I get that I'm a scary fighter, but on paper I can lose. And to me, it's really disappointing to see, especially the Michigan girls that are in the area not want to fight me, because it's like, you know, if you're not going to fight a girl in your same state, what makes you think you're going to make it in the, you know, on the big scene to begin with? I understand it's a risky move, but I'm just all about putting on a good show. Like, even me, I'm to the point where I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just be a sacrificial lamb for somebody else because I just want to get a fight.
Right.
So I you know, it is what it is. You're sure you know the fight game in and out. It's about politics, about records, about money. There's a lot of different reasons, and I'm to the point now where I'm just like, man, I'm just glad I have a fight.
Well, being around some of the male fighters in your camp, do you find it is harder for women in general to find fights than it is for the males? And if so, why?
I definitely think so, because I do think that there is a smaller pool. Like with the guys, I feel there's always new coming in. There's a lot of more variety of guys. I think even just for guys competition-wise, they have more competition because there's more of them. On top of the fact that I do think that girls, you know, tend to get catered to a little more when it comes to protecting them, as far as getting them to win or lose by the promoters, this and that and the other thing. So I do think it's just harder being a chick in the sport. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
So the next question I have for you is, we had talked leading up to bringing you on the show and coordinating the interview and all those things, and you told me that you're still doing your training camps, you know, the old school way. You know, you talked about how you're going to finish your camp in Florida, and I know you trained with Michigan Top Team and Magic BJJ and all that kind of stuff. Tell me a little bit about that. You know, a lot of people nowadays, you're seeing them, they're training in one place and got their camps everywhere. What motivates you to, you know, still go seek training in multiple different places, or is it just you like the vibes at the different places?
It's a couple different reasons. You know, where I live, you know, I was staying with my parents in the Flint area. So anywhere in that area, I'm driving at least an hour in any direction at any one of my array of gyms. You know, I've been training also at Triumph in Grand Rapids, which is where I'm going to be basing my Michigan side of the camp out of now, because I currently now live in Grand Rapids. So when I do go to MCT and stuff, I'm driving like 2 hours, but I have like a halfway house, thankfully. A lot of it has to do with the girls that I network with because there's not a lot of girls, and a lot of us have had to move or uproot and go to different gyms, but we still network with each other. You know, I network with Andrea Howland, Elise Anderson, you know, Cora Thompson. I have all these other girls, and, you know, some of them are moms. We all have different schedules. Elise goes to school full time, and so we just do what we have to do to make it work for all of us because we're all there to help each other. So we will meet at different places. You know, we meet at Bushido sometimes, whether it's Magic, MTT, Triumph. So we just do what we got to do to make it work to make ourselves better. I appreciate the fact of having to stay at one gym and having a team, but at the same time, I'm Team Angie, you know. And if you want to be a part of that, then you can be a part of that. And we all do what we got to do to make each other better, especially because women are more limited in the state. You know, you might have one or two decent girls at each gym, so we all try to, like, still train together and get our camps and coordinate each other.
Well, I totally can respect that. And something that goes with that, you know, like, that just brings me to the most basic of questions. You know, what got you into fighting in the first place? You know, because like you said, you don't see as many female fighters. I mean, it's on the rise now with Invicta and the UFC and all that stuff. But, you know, what was it that got you into it?
I was an athlete my entire life, and it was something that I decided to try. I always respected the sport because I was always a hard worker, whether it was, you know, me playing basketball for 13 years, volleyball, track, I power lifted, softball. I played a lot of different array of, you know, athletics. So this was very intriguing for me because it looked very difficult and challenging, and I tried it, and it just clicked with me. And I think one of the reasons I've stayed in it as long as I have is because it is very challenging, and you can never know everything, and it's always evolving, and it really pushes you mentally and physically more than any other sport I've ever done.
Wait, what were your events in track and field?
I was a sprinter and pole vaulter, but I specialized mostly in long jump. But I did like the 100-meter dash, 200-meter, and then long jump and a few relays.
Well, okay, I have a selfish question for you, and this is kind of for my niece. My niece, she won the Georgia State Championship in the shot put her freshman year, and I'm trying to encourage her, you know, to take it a little bit more seriously because, you know, she's a bigger girl, so like it kind of came natural to her. But I kept telling her, like, you won the state championship as a freshman, so you can, if you apply yourself, you can be an Olympian. So what advice would you give to a young lady like my niece that actually has these natural gifts and just needs a little bit of encouragement to, you know, take the sport a little bit more seriously?
I mean, consistency is definitely key, especially at her age. Starting her out young is really beneficial to her. You know, because I started in my sports young and then built them up over the years. So she's already at that level competing at states as a freshman. As a freshman, you know, you have 13, 14 years old and you're competing against girls and they're 18, 19 years old. So she's doing that well now. I would hope that would motivate her alone, you know?
Right.
So I would just say stick with it. If she enjoys it, that's all that matters. And I actually tried shot put, and that's hard. Like, I'm not going to lie. That takes a lot of technique. Like, a lot of people don't understand the amount of technique shot put really takes.
Right. And the scary thing about it is that she won the state champion. She was using like basic technique. She wasn't even using like spin technique. Like she literally just got up there and just like basic technique and won a state championship. So I'm telling her, like, if you put the time in, you can do something.
Actually get her own technique now and build off of it.
Right. So yeah, Sydney, you hear it. That's an athlete right there telling you, stick to it.
So speaking of that, you know, you told us about how you had a lengthy amateur career, at least, you know, for females, because you don't see as many female amateur fights, you know, because it's still growing. You know, how long total have you been in the game?
I believe my first amateur fight was in 2013. So it's been going on probably about 6 years now.
Okay.
And my amateur career had 10 fights.
Nice. And how would you say, you know, in the time you've been around, you know, like how would you rate the growth of not only women's MMA, but, you know, in the Michigan scene and Florida scene for that matter, because you would know Florida scene as well. Like, how do you think on the more local level, you know, the female MMA scene is growing? Or are there things that you would like to see changed?
You know, it has grown. A lot of girls have been in and out because a lot of amateurs went pro, so now there's a new wave. There's always new waves of girls. I'd say there's still about the same amount as far as like now compared to when I was an amateur. It's just all the amateurs went pro, and now we have the new amateurs. As far as Michigan MMA, it's definitely grown a lot as MMA in general. You know, we never used to be sanctioned. Now we're sanctioned. There's a lot more pro promotions in Michigan, pro-AMI shows. As far as Florida, I mean, I was only down there 2 years, so I can't really say. The Florida promotions are completely different. Like, as far as the amateur side, you know, when I was in Michigan, I was fighting unsanctioned. I was throwing elbows. We were doing whatever, you know. And then in Florida, when I fought, they had shin pads, no elbows, no ground and pound, because that's the way they're sanctioning amateur fights are. So there's quite the difference between the two. But as far as how, you know, the history of Florida MMA, I'm not certain of that.
Okay, I have a question about Florida, and this might be a little weird, so just follow me. Have you ever had any encounters with Florida man?
Oh God.
Florida men?
Florida man.
Florida man.
Okay, let me explain. Some weird stuff goes on in Florida. So usually on the news, you'll hear something like, Florida man gets arrested after punching flamingos in the face.
Oh, my gosh.
What the fuck kind of shit are you watching?
No, seriously, there's like a whole Twitter page dedicated to Florida man. So
no way.
So what's like the weirdest thing you ever heard happen in Florida while you were down there?
While I was down there, I mean, I've had just the people down there are very interesting. You know, they make fun of South Florida specifically. It's not just Florida, it's South Florida. That it's its own, like, country down there. It's just crazy. It's highly populated. You get an array of people. You get spring breakers. I'll tell you this, though. I was down there for about the first 6 months I was down there, I got rear-ended twice. So let's just put it that way.
People cannot drive in
Florida. It's definitely a circus down there. I haven't really had an encounter with anything too crazy, but I have heard of a lot of, you know, crazy things. I definitely stayed in my house a lot. I was either training or at my house. I did not like leaving the house. I did not like driving. The traffic was ridiculous. It was just like a war zone every time I left the house. Let's just say I bought a backpack first to go to Walmart.
So
because I was ready to go. Like, I wore my tennis shoes and my backpack to Walmart because I wasn't fucking around.
Yeah, if you want to have some fun, just go on Twitter and follow Florida man, and you'll see some of the craziest stuff. And these are all real stories.
Yeah, I believe it. I totally believe it. I mean, I had my house broken into when I was down there at one point, so I completely believe the crazy Florida stories.
Holy shit. So we're talking about crazy stories in Florida. I've got one. So I went down there I went down to Orlando for WrestleMania, not this year, but last year. And when I was down there, I was supposed to leave on Sunday because I got there Friday, or I think I got there Saturday. I was supposed to be there Saturday and Sunday and then leave Monday. Well, my flight got delayed, so I stayed and said, well, hell, if I'm not going to be able to leave till 8 o'clock, I might as well go to Raw, which was at the Amway Center. So I figured, okay, let me get a hotel that's somewhat close to this arena. Well, when I found my tickets and found out whom I bought my tickets from, the reason why those tickets were there for me to buy was because people that I met from Wisconsin and were sitting next to me told me that they were walking down the street, just had gotten some alcohol from the liquor store or something, and some jackass hit this guy and hit him up into the air and then left him there laying. So the guy was there in the hospital. So they were like, yeah, I wouldn't walk very far, and that kind of goes to what you were saying. Like, they hit the guy, knocked him up in the air, and then took off. Like,
oh yeah, there was actually a serious incident that happened while I was down there because I was training at Jocko Hybrid Training Center, and that's where the Black Belt was trained out of when I lived there. And there was an upcoming fighter named Jordan, and he was jogging on a hit and run and got killed. And the guy didn't stop, and he eventually turned himself in because there was a manhunt for this guy that had hit him. And it was definitely a really sad tragedy, but it happens left and right down there. People are crazy.
I feel like I heard about that because I got to train at American Top Team when I was out there a few years ago. And I remember hearing something about that from one of the local guys because another guy from here and past guest of our show, Miles Jury, had went down there to train with Mike Chandler when Mike Chandler had went over there for a little bit. So, yeah, I've heard some crazy stories about Florida. But on a better note, you know, we're talking about hobbies and all these things. I also have seen quite a bit of your photography stuff. Tell me a little bit about how you got into photography and, you know, like, what are you trying to do, like, make your own business out of it, or?
Yeah, hobby. My dad was actually a photographer in out of the Vietnam War. He had become injured and could no longer be in the infantry, and he took the opportunity to be a photographer and had a couple famous shots out there. And I was always in front of the camera as a kid, and he'd always taught me the basics of photography. And I decided to get a camera, and I always was kind of drawn to just photos in general, more for like memory purposes. And then I just started developing it, and then through fighting, I used it to market myself for a long time. Like a lot of my, poster shots for promoters, and it was really convenient. I was just calling like, hey, can you get my poster shots for me? Do all these things, help market me with sponsors. I could do it all myself instead of hiring a photographer. And so it kind of just developed, and then I started doing weddings for friends, and, I started doing side jobs for friends, and started, actually making money. And now I've developed to the point now where it's kind of a side job for me, along with the fact that I help other fighters. Like I sponsor a couple fighters, I work with them and do different things. So I am trying to build it. It's definitely a fallback plan for me for fighting, because I also really enjoy it as well. So I'm kind of building my company along with building my fighting right now.
Wait, do you do any like nature pictures or landmarks? And if so, what was your favorite thing to take a picture of?
I'm not too far into. I don't have really the lens or the equipment to do more landscape stuff, but I do have a picture I took a long time ago. One of my favorite photos was of the Tiger Stadium, and I was on the roof on one of the skyscrapers in Detroit, and I got this bird's eye view of the Detroit Tiger Stadium, and with the Goodyear blimp in it, and it was awesome. It was perfect lighting. It was one of my favorite photos.
Good. So I'm gonna ask this question, and I don't want you to think that I'm hitting on you. I'm asking this question to set up the next question. But do you have a boyfriend?
Jesus Christ, here we go.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that is, I've always wanted to ask a woman fighter this question. So let's just say you go train, and let's just say you get a shiner, you get a black eye. Is it weird for your boyfriend to be walking out with you with a black eye? That do people ask questions like, "Oh my God, is he hitting you?" or anything like that?
It is weird because he has expressed to me how he's like, man, I think people are looking at me like I did this. And it is one of those things like people do assume, but if I'm walking around and, you can tell by my build that I'm obviously not your average little girl.
Right.
So, usually people just kind of look and they kind of are confused at the situation. I don't really have people ask me anything. Sometimes I mess with people. Like when I waitress on the side and when I'm, waitressing and stuff, people look at me weird and I'm like, yeah, I was like, I didn't make enough money last night. Help me. My pimp beat me. So like I do mess with people that get a little kind of, because I don't like when people assume either. So it's like, calm down. But yeah, it definitely is something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, the reason why I thought about this is, was it December when UFC was here in Detroit and Felice Herring was on that card, and she had a black eye, and she showed pictures of her driving back home to Chicago, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, like she's walking around with this black eye with this guy, and I'm like, somebody has to be wondering, like, is he hitting her?
Yeah, usually I try to wear, like, if I have a current black eye and we go out in public, I try to wear like T-shirts that say like MMA on them or something. So that way it's like, okay, she does fighting,
So it's funny you bring up Felice Herring, Devin, because one of the names that she mentioned that she trains with, Elise Anderson, trains out at Team Curran with Felice and them.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So would you ever fight Felice Herring?
Me?
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not on her level. I'm a 1-0 pro. I wouldn't be opposed to it. The opportunity presented itself as a big opportunity to say no to. Yeah, I would. If that was something that she wanted to do, but I doubt that that's something she wants to do. I only want to know what's very good for her to fight a 1-0er. But if she's still in the game by the time I got a few fights under my belt, I wouldn't be opposed to it. No.
Okay. We try to book fights here on Knockouts and 3 Counts every now and again.
Devin likes to stir. Devin likes to stir the fucking pot, is what he likes to do. So. Here's another question for you. So since our show, obviously we talk about MMA, but we also are a half pro wrestling show. Have you ever watched wrestling at all? Ever were a fan of it at some point? And what do you think of all the stuff they've had with the females and having Ronda Rousey come in?
I have touched a little little bit into that. I have a friend that her husband does it, and I've went to a couple shows, and I totally respect that. It's hard work. I've seen those guys throwing each other around, and as far as the Ronda Rousey thing, I think that was probably one of the best decisions she ever made. She's probably making more money than, any of, multiple fighters combined. She's making a brand for herself. She doesn't have to take MMA fights and actually take a beating on a regular basis. So I think that was a good decision on her part. I think that was awesome.
But could you ever see yourself getting into professional wrestling?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. No, I definitely could see myself doing it. I think I might be a little small for it because I'm only like 5'2", but I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. No, I think it'd be fun to be able to do stuff like that and have the throws and coordinate fighting and be able to look hot while I'm doing it with my hair and makeup done, these cool outfits. Why not?
Yeah, trust me, the height wouldn't be a problem. They have plenty of wrestlers that are like 5 foot even.
I was just about
to... really? Because they look so big on TV.
Well, I was just about to say, if you get any time and get time to check it out, so there's the WWE does their big tournament, the Mae Young Classic and all that, and there's one name that came to my mind in general when you said you didn't think you were big enough. They got this girl named Casey Catanzaro who did the American Ninja Warrior and shit, and she's got to be... Dude, if she's 5 foot, I'd be shocked.
Right.
And she only weighs...
Wow.
And she only weighs probably, what... Probably maybe 115 pounds, maybe.
That might be generous.
Yeah, and that's like super
maybe
small.
Their size matchups, they make them look bigger because they look so big to me that I'm like,
oh dude, they definitely have some women that are pretty big when you see them in person. Like they had the one girl in the tournament. What was it? Vanessa Craven. She's like,
she's like six.
She's like 6'2".
Yeah, she's like my height.
And she weighed 200 pounds and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, not that I got a problem with it, but damn.
Well, so with your fight coming up in December, you said you fought this your opponent already. Is there any bad blood between the two of you, or is it just, hey, we're going at it one more time?
No bad blood. I mean, we do go to rival camp. What? He was from American Top Team at the time. I was at the, Black Zillions training facility. But there's definitely no bad blood. I think that there's a mutual respect for each other. She went pro a little earlier than me. She was my last amateur fight. Okay. And then KOP was my next fight. So I actually had quite the layoff. Again, like I've had big spaces in between my fights because even prior to fighting Trisha as an amateur, it took me like a year and a half, 2 years just to get that fight. So I've had only a couple fights in like 3 years. And she went pro before me. She fought for Titan and stuff. And then now she's just willing to do the rematch. She's 1-3 now. I'm 1-0. And we put on a good show before. We were main event title fight for XFN as amateurs. And now that we're pros, I think we just want to run it again. Danielle K is now converting to the pro shows because it was amateur. So he had called me up and said, hey, I'm running a pro show now. I thought of you. You want to fight? And I was like, yeah. And then he had mentioned Trisha. And honestly, it had been in the back of my mind because even after we had fought, I was like, man, because I had lost her in the third round to an armbar. And I was thought, man, I just felt like I could have beat her,
Right.
And so when he mentioned it, I was like, absolutely. He's like, I know she's down already. I was like, okay, make it happen. And we signed the contract within like 2 days. So it was quite the battle back and forth. And now I'm curious to see how it will go as pros because, like I said, we had the amateur sanctioned rules when we fought. And it's been, a couple years since we fought. We're both completely different fighters, completely different set of rules. So to me, it's almost like a whole new fight.
Yeah, that should definitely be a good fight. You can check that out on Flow Combat. And
yep.
One of the questions that always come to my mind, as far as like women on MMA cards where there's men as well, is it just me or does it seem like to you that the women's fights usually tend to steal the show? And if so, why is that?
I do think that they do sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I think with women, it's either hit or miss. I think sometimes it's amazing or it's, then it's kind of like a cat fight. But either way, even if it's a cat fight, it's pretty entertaining. One of the reasons I think is maybe because women just kind of take more of a chance, high risk, high reward, more energy, because I think we have more to prove because we are coming into the MMA scene. Like they didn't want women in the UFC initially, said there never would be, and now we're headlining UFC pay-per-view cards, and I just think that there's more to prove, and we have to take ourselves very seriously and, show all that we have because, we're women in a male-dominated sport.
So, and it's funny you bring that up. It's something that I've been saying for a while, and I want to see what your thoughts are on this. As we talked about, we do wrestling and MMA on this show, and one thing that they're doing a lot in WWE is they have their women's movement right now, and they're doing a lot of first for women. So the first all women's pay-per-view is coming up next. The first women's Hell in a Cell match, the first women's Royal Rumble match. But and people are saying, yes, there's definitely a lot of progress. But honestly, in my opinion, I think the real progress is when we're not talking about the first anymore, and it's just commonplace for women to have their own pay-per-view or women to have these types of matches. In your opinion, is it more important to have these big firsts for women, or is it more important to get to the point where it's not even a thing that you think about anymore and it's more common?
Yeah, I do think it should be just more common. I think it's getting there. Because before it was a bigger deal. Now we're getting more weight classes in the UFC.
Right.
So I think it's on its way, and because on the same aspect, I don't want to be treated any differently just because I am a woman in a positive manner, whether it's getting more attention or whatever it is. I'm just here to fight, just like a male. Females fighting females shouldn't be any different than males fighting males.
Right.
Yeah,
and with me, and we talked about it on the show before. Like I said, it just seems like every month they're announcing some first, women's this, and I'm like, when do we get to the point where it's just, hey, there's a women's match coming on,
it's just or just a fight, just
right,
fighting, whatever.
Right, when it's just commonplace, because honestly, before, especially with WWE. Basically, the women's match was like the bathroom break. So as soon as the women's match would come on, everybody knew, okay, it's break time. Let's go to the bathroom. Get yourself another drink. But I'm definitely glad to see the progress. Like I said, you mentioned MMA. I remember when Dana White literally said he would never have women in the UFC, and now he has 4 weight classes, I think, 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it is becoming a lot more mainstream. So that's good.
Could you see not could you see yourself? Could you see the UFC adding more weight classes for women, or do you think they need to add more weight classes?
I think the next one probably should be or might be the atomweight division, the 105 division.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
That would probably be the next one because a lot of their girls are picked from Invicta, and Invicta has quite the roster of 105ers, so I could definitely see that being a possibility in the near future for sure.
Could you make 105?
Oh, hell no. I can make 115, but I'm not making 105.
I laugh at that because I've had the same problem because I have Crohn's disease, so cutting weight is quite the pain in the ass for me. And I told myself the last time I tried to cut, it was for a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I was like, never again will I ever cut weight for a jiu-jitsu tournament because I cut down.
Oh, yeah, I stopped cutting for jiu-jitsu. Fuck that.
I got down to 140, and then no one else showed up for our bracket, so it ended up being me and a teammate fighting each other best 2 out of 3, and I was like, this is fucking.
No.
I'm like, this is bullshit. I feel sick as fuck. And I'm going to fight a guy who knows everything I like to do, so there goes my game out the fucking window. This is bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, cutting weight is serious, too, and unfortunately, it is a huge, huge part of the game because there's weight classes for a reason, and a lot of people usually cut a lot of weight at the higher level because that's one of the reasons why I kind of moved back up to 125 because I had made the cut a couple times to 115, and my last cut didn't really go that well. And I was sick of keeping my weight so far down because I wasn't getting fights, and it definitely takes a toll on the body and is quite dangerous. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with the rules on that because that's a huge part of the game is who can cut the most weight, honestly.
Speaking of that, what do you think about the proposed fight that they've been talking about with Diaz and Poirier coming up, and it's supposedly supposed to be for the newly minted 165 title?
Is that a catchweight? Sorry, I'm really bad with
they're talking about making a new weight class in between 70 and 85 or 55 and
55.
yeah.
70.
So they're talking about fighting it, starting a 65 weight class. I forgot what they're calling it, but they're gonna make a belt. They're gonna make a new belt for it because it was one of the weight classes that was proposed, like the in betweens, like in the big jumps between 70 to 85, 55 to 70. And I guess Poirier and Diaz are supposed to fight for the first belt for that, I think.
I don't see a problem with it because I discourage high weight cuts just because it is so bad. So, and there's so many guys, I don't see any harm in making another weight class if they have to make those catch weights because then there can be more matchups and stuff like that. I don't see a problem with that.
So I've seen a few of your tweets and Instagram stuff. I need to get your thoughts on UFC 229 and the fucking shit show that happened with Khabib and Conor.
Jesus.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, Conor had it coming. So, as much as I, respect the fact in a way that Conor, he has a character. I think his character can get a little out of control. I'm not saying what Khabib did was okay. It was not okay. But I think there was a lot going on probably behind the scenes that nobody knows about that was said. Like I said, like Khabib said, there was a lot of, low blows on McGregor's part, stuff like that. So I don't think it's right what he did, but I definitely don't think he should be heavily penalized. I mean, look at all the shit Conor's pulled.
Yep.
Smashed the bus window in, cutting Mike Chiasa's face. Has done an array of things actually hurting people. And so I just think that they need to their actions do say a lot. And honestly, I think that incident saved Dana White's ass because his little money baby lost.
Shots fired.
He was very probably happy about that because now he has a reason for a rematch and this and that and the other thing. So I really hope that Khabib doesn't get his title stripped because that would be really unfortunate because they didn't really do any of that for McGregor. So we'll see what happens. I think that they definitely can't take the incident lightly because they can't have this ever happen again, because it's sending the wrong message to people thinking that they can get away with this stuff. But I think it's a tough situation. It was quite the shit show.
And that's the crazy part about it. I think you and I are on the exact same page with it because I feel like I can understand both sides of it. Like I understand why Khabib was pissed off because I thought it was bullshit what Conor pulled, and I still don't, other than the fact that somebody's protecting him clearly, don't understand how he got out of that without any charges, especially when the first thing out all over the news when that happened was charges pressed on Conor and all this stuff, and he got away scot-free. On the other hand, I also can see, MMA, as everybody that's listening to this knows, already has the black eye just because there's kicks and knees and all that kind of shit anyway. And then to have some shit like this happen, it just looks bad. I would hope that Khabib wouldn't get stripped. I also can see why they're doing that. It's just going to be interesting to see how they play it out, and I hope at the very least that there's going to be a rematch out of it. What was crazy to me is the fact that Khabib's teammates jumped in there and tried to jump Conor after it. Like, these motherfuckers look like they had that shit planned. I'm like, damn, you guys were just waiting for that bitch to end.
Yeah, I mean, but didn't Conor show up to the bus with, a whole gang of guys at the same time?
Oh, he's always got an entourage.
Yeah, and it's just, it is what it is. It's just Conor talks a lot of shit. He had it coming. I think that's one of the reasons why he wasn't pressing charges. I believe that's what I heard. So,
yep.
Like I said, I just hope the UFC can handle the situation in a fair manner. Obviously, they're going to set up the rematch any way they can because Conor's a moneymaker. I mean, look at the way Conor came out of the cage. He wasn't even the current champion, and he had smoke on the ground of the cage and all this stuff. And then Khabib comes out and nothing, and he's the current champion. So it goes to show it's all about money, and it's all about the show. So, and Conor puts on a show.
So here's one.
I'm sure that they're gonna have a rematch.
So here's one for you, Devin. I know you didn't get this, but Angie, there's a good chance you did. So did Bobby Adams, our buddy from Cage in the Cave, happen to send you the video of what Khabib was saying to Conor while he was pounding his face in on the ground?
Oh no, I didn't.
Holy
see
shit!
that.
So there's a video where somebody transcribed what they're saying. And as Khabib is in Conor's guard pounding his shit in, he goes, let's talk now, and he's hitting him and trying to get Connor to talk shit to him while he's beating him up. And then as they stand up and they're up against the fence about to end the round, Connor goes, "It's all business." Like, and you could clearly see him say it, and they transcribe what they say. I was just like, wow, what the fuck?
You know what I was interested in is during the fight, Khabib kept like looking over his shoulder, and it was I'm not sure where, because any fighter doesn't look at their own coach.
No.
So I'm like thinking, because I think there was some things said during the fight from Connor's corner, and that's one.
I'm sure there
he didn't
was.
just jump out of the cage for no reason here. So I think that there was a lot going on we don't know about. Maybe he took it more personally. I mean, it is business, but you can't lie. Connor does take it very, 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 very far.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, I mean, his jiu-jitsu coach has gotten into it with how many fucking people at this point? Like, I've heard, I don't know how many incidents of Dylan Donis getting into it with, like, countless people and them all wanting to kick his ass. So I wouldn't be shocked if exactly like you said, when they come back to the corner and Dylan's been shooting shit through the cage the whole time and Khabib just got up all hyped up and, like, was like, fuck this.
Right.
Wait,
Did
you guys see?
Never know the real story.
Did you guys see what WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin tweeted after the fight?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No. I'm almost scared to hear what.
It's really simple. He said, "I love professional wrestling." So basically what he's saying is he
thinks it's a work.
He thought a lot of this was
in
work.
that case, I did hear about it because I was listening to an episode of his earlier today at work, and he was talking about the fight, and he's like, "Yo, it was such a great fight," but he was like, "Dude," he goes, "I can't say one way or the other, and I love watching both these guys fight," but he goes, "Being in the pro wrestling business for as many years as I was," he goes, "this shit smells of a work to me."
Yeah.
And after seeing that video that Bobby sent me, I'm like, sometimes you have to wonder.
And
I mean, it could have been that way.
the one thing that I didn't like about this whole thing was that it really overshadowed what was a really, really good card.
Agreed.
From top to bottom, there's a lot of great fights on there. And now
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis was a great
I was
fight.
about to say they're the ones that got fucked because that fight was great.
Yeah.
I think they got. I'm pretty sure they got fight of the night.
About the circus, so.
Shit, I hope so, dude. I mean, hell, Anthony Pettis broke his hand on Ferguson's fucking face when he dropped him. So
Yeah, they got fight of the night.
yeah, so I think, hey, it'll bring hype back to it, and it's like you were talking about, Angie. I mean, at the very least, whether people like Conor, hate Conor, whatever, let's face it. When the guy's going to fight, it doesn't matter who it is. You've either got people who want to see him get his ass whooped or they want to see him kick somebody's ass. I mean, look at all the fights between the Conor fans and the Khabib fans at the weigh-in. Like, there were multiple videos of how there was like a fucking big gang fight. Like, they've got people this serious over a fucking fight. So, at the end of the day, we're the real dummies because they're over here making money and everybody's all buying into it. So, just saying.
Yeah. Yep. Love her, you hate him. Just like, Ronda was the same way.
Yep.
People bought the pay-per-view to either watch her lose or watch her win. So it's all about the fans. Whether they hate you or they like you, they're still fans.
Well, Andrew, we only have a few more minutes. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. If there's anything that we didn't cover that you definitely wanted to touch on, was there anything that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered it.
Oh, that's like a pat on the back. We did our job, Kyle.
What the fuck? Fuck all that shit. But
you got any last questions for Andrew while we start writing this down?
Only other thing I was going to ask, and I was going to ask when we were talking about when you mentioned you and your opponent have fought before, does that bring you any, I don't want to say comfort because you're never really comfortable going into a fight, but does it bring you anything that you want to look for, like if she's going to do new, or is there any level of comfort, having fought her before?
There is obviously, like I said, we're so different from where we were at then to where we are now, whether in our growth of MMA and training. A lot of that fight, I was mentally, at a low. I mentally wasn't there. A lot of that fight was my problem. Like, I had issues with adrenaline dump. I had things going on, in my corner as far as like my mental game. So I've really focused on myself. So there's a comfort there because even after that fight, like I said, I was like, man, I felt like I could have beat her. If I was there mentally, everything would have been, it would have been a completely different fight. So for me, it's just, I've really taken this time, these years that I've been, because it's off time in between fights, I've taken a lot of time mentally. I have been working on my mindset and things like that because physically I'm there. I am constantly in shape. I'm constantly, eating clean as much as I can, because it is a full-time job. And I've really focused on myself. So there is a comfort there knowing that I feel like it's really more in my control as far as, like, as long as I can keep myself in control. Because I kind of know what to expect, but I feel like she might not because I'm very different mentally. So I think she has a comfort knowing that she beat me before. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I was like 60% then. So.
Would you say that it's given you any extra fire to kind of get back off of that loss?
Yeah, I mean, it has, because like I said, it was like, man, I lost that fight and I could have won, and that was my last amateur fight, and, she had a lot of hype behind her, so this is something, I do need to win this fight for myself, along with just on paper, I need to win this fight.
Well, in that case, let's hope that when December 15th rolls around, we'll be bringing you back on shortly thereafter to talk about you knocking her out. So if there's anything else you need to... if there's anything else you need to plug, anybody else you want to shout out, we'll definitely be watching and helping plug the fight. So, floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, just hit me up after and we can set something up.
Cool.
All right, Andy, well, it sounds like you just made it home, Andy. We'll let you...
Sorry, I was literally training, and I was like, oh, this interview, I forgot. Because that's why I couldn't, come into the studio because I was out of town, and now I'm driving home. Sorry.
No worries.
No problem. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, thank you, guys.
All right, and make sure you throw your social media out there one last time and your sponsors that you need to get out there, too.
Okay, my social media is angela.jennings.mma on both Instagram and Facebook, and I'd like to thank Cage Side Management, Steely Tees, and Bull Terriers in Michigan.
All right, thank you, Angie. Appreciate you.
And shout out to Liam, because I know you're watching right now. We'll be having you come on the show soon enough. And shout out to the rest of the guys under the Cage Side Management banner.
All righty. Hey, Randy, how much time we got? We got 2 minutes. All right, real quick. Throw your social media out there, sir.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Detroit Knockout, at Detroit Knockout on Twitter and Instagram, and follow our show page, Knockouts and 3 Counts Podcast. And also, October 27th, we'll be live from BCWA at the Copeland Center in Wyandotte. Get your tickets. We'll be there doing a live show. I know they're doing a tag team tournament, which one of our co-hosts, Tony fucking Thunder, will be competing in at some point too. So be there. It'll be a great show. It was a packed house last time. Shout out to Mike Blackwell.
Get there early so you can get a seat, people. Like, literally, it was like standing room only.
That bitch was packed. So you should be there. And it was a good time afterwards, too. So be on the lookout.
Yes, sir. Wait, did you throw your social media?
I already did.
Okay, all right. I blanked out there for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, this whole sober October thing has been weird. I've been forgetting stuff.
How is it that being sober is making you forget things?
I know,
Isn't
man.
it supposed
It's
to
weird.
go the other way around?
My body has...
Or are you in that bad of a state that being drunk helps you remember
My body
things?
has been so used to the toxins that them not being there anymore is changing my brain chemistry.
He's technically still hungover.
Except now you've got a mental hangover.
But real quick, hey, make sure you follow my other podcast, All Steak No Sizzle, where you can follow my sober October journey. I just put the first week recap up 2 days ago, so make sure you check that out.
Also, and before we go, I have to get this out there because I forgot to say it when I was saying my own shit. Shout out to Congo Kong. Be on the lookout. We've got interviews coming with him and the zombie princess himself, Jimmy Jacobs, former WWE writer, big name through the indies. Anyone who knows anything about wrestling knows what the fuck is up. So, yeah.
Man.
And shout out to Movado for making his Impact debut.
I don't know why it's always funny to say the zombie princess himself, and that cracks me up every
Dude,
time.
he fucking wears a tiara to the ring, okay?
And he wore, I think he wore a tutu at All In, but
I did not see the Battle Royal. I have to go back and watch that shit just because of that.
But yeah, make sure you check out my other podcast, All Steak No Sizzle. You can find that on my Twitter at Devin63. That's DEVINTHE63. You also find me on Instagram at All Steak No Sizzle. That's one word. Make sure you check out the All Steak No Sizzle Facebook page and the Knockouts and Three Counts Facebook page. Subscribe and like all that stuff. Hey, also, Reality Era News page on Facebook where we talk wrestling. And, hey, if you're looking for a car, check out SouthfieldQualityCars.com. Once you look at that inventory and you say, hey, that Toyota Corolla looks really, really nice. I want that Toyota Corolla.
How did we go
Nobody
from
says a Toyota Corolla.
I was about to say, how the fuck did we go from an Audi A6 to a Toyota Corolla?
Look, man, you gotta look. People got different price ranges, okay?
But that's what you dropped to? That's a hell of a drop.
Look, man, some people can afford an Audi A6, some people can afford a Toyota Corolla, man. But, hey, regardless, when you go into Southfield Quality Cars, you use the reference code 19309, and you get $500 off on your already cheap Toyota Corolla. Bam. How about that?
Did you know that 1 ounce of polar bear liver contains 5,000 times more vitamin A than can safely be consumed by a human?
Did you say polar bear liver?
Yes.
How
One of the side effects of too much vitamin A is your skin sloughs off.
So why the fuck?
Wait,
Don't eat a polar bear liver.
Why the fuck would you want to eat a polar bear liver?
wait, time out.
You know, if your hot air balloon crashes in the Arctic Circle.
You'd die from the cold anyway, and good luck trying
No,
to
you
kill
wouldn't.
a fucking polar bear.
Wait, Randy, what's going? Let's talk, man. What's going on? That this is the information that you're Googling, man.
I'd love to just see the shit he looks up while we're fucking doing this.
You
shit.
know what? I don't think I do.
I never mind. Never mind.
With all that being said,
Fuck your couch.
thank you, Angie, one more time for calling in. Until next time, peace.